But you get asked that question about being vaccinated, and you answer yes, because I did get vaccinated once. I opted not to do the booster because the vaccine or going through the vaccine was nearly as bad as going through COVID back in November. But anyway, they don't ask, oh, well, when did you get vaccinated? How recent has it been or anything? They just asked if you've been vaccinated. And I find that strange. And I'm
Well,
not anti-vax. I'm not. I understand the science behind it. And I'm not saying that there aren't issues with the vaccine either. But it's like, anyway, I won't even get into all that.
well, no,
It was,
I'm trying to think of how I can politely disagree with you that because I am anti-vax because I don't want to see all my friends die, But how do I say that in a nice way?
well, all right. So let me ask you this though: Are you anti? Because we never really talked about it. Are you anti-vaccines? Period, or are you
No,
anti this vaccine?
no, I'm anti this vaccine
All
because
right.
I mean, I have not
Which
seen
one? Which one though?
all of the
Because
above.
there are multiple vaccines for
All,
COVID now.
all of this with COVID, I don't think this was based on a true medical emergency. I mean, because this is originally part
I
of
would
just
agree with
a,
that.
a cold. And I truly believe,
Now,
we take too many medicines for too many daggum things already, and we don't build up I'm a natural immunity guy. We don't build up a natural immunity. And when now
I
we're learning that
I would
ivermectin was a treatment for it, but yet the government and every freaking body else tells you, oh no, you can't even go get it at Tractor Supply. That's like illegal. And we find out that would have saved.
all you got to do is say you're getting it for cows. We used to give ivermectin all the time when we had
I know
cows.
that, but that was the cure, and your
As
government
a matter
lied
of
to you.
fact, my
Your
dad
government.
accident. My dad back. This was back in the '80s or late '80s, or maybe it was early '90s. Anyway, accidentally we were worming our cows. We had them, coming through the squeeze chute and all that, and one of the cows kicked right as he was jabbing the cow with the injector gun and accidentally injected his hand and squeezed the trigger at the same time. And so, like, he injected himself with a cow dose, like an 1,100-pound cow dose of ivermectin. I don't think he got sick for 5 or 6 years after that.
Well, I'm just saying the government lied to us all. I
Mm-hmm.
mean, the it's all coming out now. The media was lying to us, social media was lying to us. I mean, and I think that they tricked a lot of people into taking the vaccine when they shouldn't have. I mean, I think they've done a lot of harm to a lot of people. Luke Letlow, when he came on our show, you know, I wonder about that. I I, I got to tell you, I wonder about it.
Well,
He came on our show, and then 1 week later, he's being put into LSU hospital, and he's dead.
yeah. Well, look, I've been through the vaccine and and it's interesting because I rarely ever get sick. I've told the story about going to the hospital and the doctors, and they're like flip out because I don't have a primary care physician, blah, 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 all this. But anyway, so Gina and I opted to do the vaccine, the Pfizer vaccine, 2021. And the initial injection, wasn't really that bad. But when you went back for the second one, because it's a two-part injection, not the booster, but the second part of it, it affected Gina a little bit, but I felt like I was going to die. It was almost as bad as when I actually had COVID. And let me tell you something, because I don't get sick very much. I've had the flu, I don't know, half a dozen times in my life, blah, blah, cold, sinus infections, all that kind of good stuff. But let me tell you something. COVID, when I went through it in November, was like going into like on Yellowstone when Casey went into the teepee and went through the deal for, a couple of days in the teepee out there. I was running 102 fever for 3 or 4 days straight. I basically don't know what happened for 4 days of my life, except I was going
I,
around my bedroom with no clothes on because I couldn't keep my temperature regulated. Gina had the door shut to keep everybody out of there, and I don't know what happened after that. I lost 15 pounds in 3 days, 4 days.
I am in no way minimizing what happened to you, but I can tell you, even before COVID, became a thing and hit the fan, I know in my household, me, Kara, our kids, all of us had this cold, sickly. We felt like we were dead, and ever since then, we've had those sicknesses run through our household. But you know
Right.
what? We all treated it as if it was just a regular. We were sick and it wasn't COVID. We just did. I hate to
Well,
say it.
and look, Gina, in 2019, Gina and I had basically the same type of deal, and we figured it was a light flu or whatever it was, something like that, whatever it was. But I'm going to tell you, the sure enough COVID that I went and got tested for, and I'm not one of these that thinks everybody needs to,
But how do you know?
I'm not advocating.
Let me
Well, how do I
scare
know?
you. Let me
All right.
scare you. I've never been COVID tested. I'm not
Okay.
going to, because you know what? I can tell you right now, I will have tested positive. I will
Probably
test
so.
positive every freaking time.
Right.
I don't even have a doubt in my mind.
Right. So
So
that doesn't affect me at all. I understand the
how do you know?
biology
How do you know?
behind diseases and the way that works. But what do you mean? How do you know?
Well, I'm just saying, how do you know? Because it's guaranteed you're going to test positive. So
No,
how do
it's
you
not
know that it was
No,
actually?
it's not guaranteed
I
you're
don't
going to
believe
test
that.
positive
I
because
don't believe that, because they're all making money.
I've tested negative before.
Well, you had a bad test. They should have done another test.
All right. Anyway, now that
Hey,
we're
wait a minute.
2023, and right off the gate, we're debating COVID, vaccines, and everything else. This is awesome.
Yeah, but I mean, dadgum, look, we just had on national TV, we had that young man. I'm just gonna say I don't even know his name. That young man finally, because it really hadn't happened in the U.S. a lot. We've seen
Right.
all these soccer players across the world just fall out dead, and we're like, "Ooh, that's bad. That's happened over there," and we go on about our whatever, surfing Twitter or whatever. But it finally happened in a major game, especially here. We was all watching Joe Burrow, admit it, rooting for him,
Right.
and bam, this guy falls out. Now,
Damar Hamlin, and I'm no football, fan. I don't watch football that much, but Damar Hamlin, just to be,
yeah, and look, I don't watch pro football anymore. I don't. The last time I
right.
watched pro football, I mean, look, I'll watch Joe Burrow every now and then, but the last time I watched pro football, and I'll tell you, and a lot of you folks, especially if you're older, if you're younger, you're gonna look at me like, what is he talking about? The guy, he's so old. It was like in the late '80s, uh, the Washington Redskins and the Raiders playing football. Joe Theismann was a quarterback of the Redskins, and he was the Joe Montana of the time.
Mm-hmm.
And when the Raiders beat them, no doubt it was rigged. There's no way the Raiders were as good as the Redskins. And after that, I knew it was like 1987, 1988. I
Right.
knew then the NFL was rigged. It was fake. It's just, you might as well be watching wrestling.
Was it like? Yeah, I was gonna say, was like pro wrestling fake or what?
Just like it. You might as well be watching wrestling. So I quit watching after that. I was done. I'm over with. You got me. I'm done.
Yeah, but I'd say, and I don't honestly, I don't care one way or the other about the NFL. Kind of like you, I might watch a football game once every blue moon, or if it's at a event or party at somebody's house or something like that, I might watch it. But I would say though, well, I was going to say I would equate it to to bass tournaments, where every once in a great while you have somebody get caught cheating, but it's an exception and not the rule, and it happens very infrequently. But then again, it's not the kind of money that's involved with the NFL, so I don't know. Anyway.
Well, and I'm glad you brought up money in the NFL, because, like we were discussing before the pre-show with this cat falling out. I wonder, because they were like, the NFL was like, they're on the COVID-19 jab bandwagon, and they
Right.
were mandating all the players get the jab. Well, everybody is saying this, and you and I had some discussion about it. How do you say it? Where's that? Commotio corditis, that was the cause.
Well,
Did I say that right?
could
Commotio
yeah,
corditis.
according to all the Facebook and internet and social media doctors, yes.
Yeah.
Me,
So
me being one of those, yeah.
right, right. And I was telling you that Dr. McCullough had done. He is the guy. He was the first guy that was coming out against the anti-jab, and smelling that there was some sketchy stuff going on with the COVID all across the board, the tests and the jabs. And he comes out and he writes an article today. He puts it out, and he's talking about how that in 2002, JAMA, which is the Journal of American Medical Association, they
Mhm.
did a study on commotio cordaitis. And in that study, they determined, that 87 of the 107 cases that were documented, 87 of them were from a blunt force trauma from a projectile like a baseball or softball or something like that, that were all in excess of 40 miles per hour.
Mhm.
Now, that wasn't that bad of a hit. I mean, it wasn't no 40
Mass,
mile per hour hit.
mass. Well, okay, force equals mass times distance. Okay, so you take a player who is near, let's just say, average of 200 pounds. I don't know what the other guy weighed, and
This math is
plants
way
plants the
too
helmet
hard.
right there in the chest at again, coincidentally, just the right time and just the right amount of surface area of his helmet on the pads, and you would have the same amount of force, Duke.
What's
It's
the
physics.
coefficient? What's the coefficient for deduction of pads?
I'd have to look
See,
that.
this is a math equation. We
Let me
can't get there.
Google it real quick, but
Well, anyway, in summation, and I'll drop it after this so we can move on and all these folks watching us ramble on. Y'all are getting entertained right here in 2023. Me and Rex we're going to have some debates here. We're showing you right out of the gate. So anyway, uh, he concludes and says he wonders since, he has wrote numerous articles and studies and showed that there was a correlation between an increase in adrenaline,
mm-hmm.
which obviously at that play that, the receiver and him, the defensive back, had obviously adrenaline flowing.
Right, right.
But he's noted an increase in heart attack with people who have had the jab when they've had increased amounts of adrenaline at that time.
Right.
But his question is, it's a documented fact, but the question is, will the NFL release, investigate, will they even look at that as being a cause because they mandate it? Because if they
Well,
mandated the jab,
but it's not the NFL. It'll be up to the actual doctors. Literally,
okay.
it's between the player and his doctors. The NFL's not sitting there dictating to the doctors and the surgeons what they have to do and not do. That's not the way it works. And look, I'm not saying that there's not something to it. I'm just saying that it's and well, we may just skip the intro or whatever. We'll just run the ads here in a second. But and folks, we will get to local stuff here in just a second.
I'm just telling you, if I see
I'm
you
d-
in Sam's, if I see you in Sam's and you're wearing a mask, I'm slapping you. I'm just telling you right now,
I,
straight up.
I'm
If I
not
see
wearing.
you in
I didn't.
Sam's,
I didn't wear
it's
a mask when I
bam,
was in the
bam,
hospital.
bam.
I'm not. I didn't wear a mask when I was in the hospital, and they didn't require me to either. That's the thing about it. They acted like the COVID was no big deal. They were much more worried about my blood pressure. Like, oh, you got COVID? Who cares? Seriously. But anyway, all right. Let's get to real. Let's get to real stuff. So we don't disagree on this. I'm just trying to play devil's advocate a little bit here. So
I know you are. I know you are. God, I just hate it. I
yeah.
just hate it.
Well, look on the upside.
Because who am I going to have to argue with if all you jab people fall out on me? Who am I going to be able to argue with?
Hey, look, I took the jab. I have high blood pressure now, like ridiculously high. I mean, I'm on
What am I
medication
going
for it, all right,
to
but so there might be something. The correlation could be the causation deal here.
do? Well, hey, we got a lot of comments there. David Crockett, obviously David Crockett, he said he's unvaccinated, so I get to argue with him.
Right.
Larry Hawkins is here. He's into the medicine for the cows, so I think I'll be able to
Hey,
rely on him for some treatment.
David Jones says maybe institute the zipper technique on football contacts. There you go. See, that's perfect, David.
Woo! See, I'm glad I'm glad I don't have the jab because the way my drilling gets up with that damn zipper technique up on Benton Road with Benton middle school or whatever, I'm gonna tell you, ooh, that traffic.
Well, look, why don't we'll just skip the intro because I want to do a new intro anyway, and I haven't done it yet. So let's just do a quick shout out to Julie Ferris and Michael Ferris, her husband, at Pelican Training and Consulting. We appreciate all that they do to help us pay the bills here because this is not free. And also to David Womack. Of course, he's a good friend of ours. He has a construction and contracting company and all that, so we want to give a big shout out to them, as well as, of course, Acadiana Mortgage. That's your and Kara's business, and then my outdoor news and Smarter Geek Tech business. So shout out to all of us, and especially to the Ferrises and to David Womack for helping us out.
Yeah, and hey, we got a few more folks have jumped into the comments. I see Kathy Booth. Hello, Kathy. Welcome. Glad to see you here. We have the Larkins in the house, and they say untested, unvaxxed, attaboy. And of course, we mentioned Larry Hawkins. And you said Charlie and Judy East, of course, regular folks that watch. Thank y'all for being here. And hey, there's 100-something people in watching the show. So y'all put something in the comments. Let us know you're there. We're glad you're here. We're looking forward to a 2023. And look, we've already got Rex. I was thinking about this today before the show. I was like, because you and I really didn't talk about what we were going to do in the show. Mm-hmm. And I was thinking, man, I recall in December, I sent a ton of public information requests, and I don't know that I've gotten any of them back. And I went to looking through, and actually we haven't. We've gotten 0 back.
You mean our illustrious former 26 JDC judge and now city attorney is falling behind on the job?
Well, I'm just saying, I'm put in a lot of requests, and there's a lot of requests that hadn't been fulfilled, and there's a lot going on. I don't know that it's quite ready for, public dissemination yet, but we're going to wait. No. So,
Okay. Well, speaking of jabs and speaking of not performing correctly, what's this about Orgies and Bossier?
Oh, good grief. I have no idea. But I can tell you, if y'all missed it and you're just now tuning in, apparently, you may not realize it or not, but apparently we have orgies in Bossier.
Yeah, and I guess it's apparently a big deal. There's so many jokes that we can insert here.
This is gonna be tough here. So all
right, so let me do this. Let me switch screens so everybody will know what we're talking about.
It wasn't Sobo. It was Nobo. Just so all you Sobo people know, it was Nobo.
All right, so here's what we're talking about. There was a post on Love Shreveport Bossier. And now I didn't, I wasn't listening to the dispatch calls or to the police scanner or whatever, so I can't absolutely verify. We're trusting that they're telling the truth on this. But says they couldn't make it up if they wanted to. Somebody called the Bossier Parish Sheriff's Office. This was on New Year's Day Eve, January 1st at 10:35, saying that he had, I can't even read this with a straight face, saying that he has 11 or 12 people in his apartment near the 5200 block of Airline having an orgy and they won't leave. The Bossier Parish Sheriff's Deputy was dispatched at 10:29 as en route. Disclaimer, this is a real call according to Love Shreveport and Bossier.
Now, if I recall correctly, the 5200 block of Airline is right there by where Jeff Thompson used to live in that subdivision. He used to live in there. I don't know if I don't think he does anymore. I don't know, but it was right there.
I don't know. So I don't know how that turned out. I think
I'm glad you don't know how it turned
out.
Well, wait a minute. Does anybody watching the show know how it turned out?
Yeah. Does anybody know anything about this? I mean, because we're seriously going to do some public information requests to see if this was just meth heads acting up or was this a real deal?
Well, I mean, this is North Bossier. They got meth heads in North Bossier.
They're everywhere, Duke. They're everywhere.
I mean, I'm dying to know. Was there a report made? We're gonna have to put a public information request in. I mean, and I mean, since Juliana Parks is the one that fields the requests for the sheriff's office, I think that probably is going to be pretty entertaining.
Now, look, I'm putting this other set of comments up here. I don't know if this guy's really a sheriff's deputy. He may or may not be. He may just been making fun of the situation. But anyway, he says, unfortunately, I responded and there was no orgy. We'll be making routine orgy detection patrols. He said, I've been waiting for this moment since training in the academy. Academy lessons, de-escalation, active shooter response, handcuffing, emergency driving, orgy dispersal and detection techniques, and report writing. So anyway,
wait a minute? Did you say orgy dispersal and
that's what this guy said? Yeah, detection techniques.
How do you detect an orgy?
Well, I don't know. You're a former fireman. How would that go?
Yeah, but I didn't get none of that training.
I mean, we could only hope that some of our local politicians were involved, that it was a real deal, and some of our local politicians were involved in their pictures or video of people being handcuffed after they got caught. Let me correct that. Being placed in the squad cars.
No, wait a minute. This ain't Caddo Parish, because
that's true.
I understand it wasn't too long ago there was a quote unquote orgy in Shreveport where somebody either died or drowned in a swimming pool. And allegedly there was a sitting judge present and a former state representative present that was there. And I don't know. I'm just saying.
That could be interesting. Look, what the only reason that we're talking about this, folks, is because it came across the 911 call or whatever it was, came across the dispatch, and then Love Shreveport and Bossier posted it. Other than that, honestly, I wouldn't care what people do. I tend to, I wouldn't say I'm not a libertarian, but I tend to lean, libertarian at when it's consenting adults and they want to do what they want to do, as long as they're, in private. But I don't know, to call the cops on this because you can't get them out of the house or apartment. And,
okay.
There's plenty of rumors that we've heard about swinging and all sorts of things going on in the underpinnings of Bossier City, but who knows if it's real. Okay, what are you clicking on? That's lots of clicking.
Yes, I'm trying to pull it up, but I guess I can't. I'm not going to be able to get it done. That's probably good that I can't.
Well, and look, there's the new law that's been enacted now, and I guess it's part of legislation, or maybe it was part of a lawsuit where, what was that? Porn sites now have to make sure that you're over 18 if your browser says that you're coming in from Louisiana. That's actually a law now. So I guess they couldn't get access to the porn, so they were trying to have their orgy thing, and then the sheriff's department got involved. I don't know.
Well, I hope the Bossier Sheriff's Office, gets on top of that situation. Anyway, I see you got in the notes the interviews part 1 through 4.
Yes. So we kind of took off last week, and didn't do a show last week and all that. And so what we did is I went through and pulled all the interviews. I think I got all of them, and compiled them into a series of videos. There's like 12 hours of interviews. It was insane. Well, unfortunately, I'm trying to read.
Michael Ferris, what do you mean the expression on my face? What? I'm just saying. Good grief. We are never going to live this down. I knew we shouldn't have put this in the notes. The first show of 2023, and we're talking about orgies. And anyway, we're never going to live it down.
Yeah, David Jones says, okay, sickos, move to business. Anyway, so I put together a compilation of videos of all the interviews that we did in 2022, and it ended up being like, I don't know, 12 hours of video. So I had to break it apart or into several parts because Facebook will only allow you to upload a video that is under 4 hours, and it's a pain in the rear to do long form video. Anyway, long story made short, YouTube is much easier for that. So some of you may have seen that we posted links to the YouTube version of the videos. So if you want to go see any of the interviews we've done, I've got them appropriately labeled and all that. Anyway.
Larry Hawkins says this show's become X-rated.
I'm trying to talk about real stuff, technical stuff for a minute. And well,
that's boring. I didn't hear anything you said. Did anybody else even hear anything Rex said? I didn't hear anything you said.
I need to change from sweet tea to Crown and Coke real quick.
D.D. White Clark says, y'all coming up on content.
See, David, it's not just us.
We got to go to something good because we got to get everybody's mind off of Nobo. We gotta do it. Tommy Chandler. We can talk about Tommy Chandler. That'll do it.
Yeah, let's switch from Orgies to Tommy Chandler.
That'll do it every time.
Okay. So let me try to catch up in my notes. All right. So first of all, I want to say that I have finally found some common ground with Tommy Chandler.
No way.
Yeah, way. I really have. How many times have I complained about the tennis courts, and it's not really the tennis courts, the subsidizing of the expansion of the tennis courts to the tune of $1.5 million that they tried to do? How many times have I griped about that?
Wasn't it $2.5 million? You shortchanging them $1 million? I thought it was $2.5 million.
It's hard to keep up when they get in the millions. $1.5 million, $2.5 million, $2 million, who knows? What's a few million among friends?
Yeah, right.
But anyway, so I went back and I was trying to find some video of certain quotations by Tommy, and I found one that actually I have common ground with. So let me cue this up and play it.
For the youth of Bossier City, I want to have more athletics events for them, such as travel baseball, softball, basketball, soccer, volleyball, tennis, swimming, golf, fishing, bowling.
What? Did you hear that?
A whole lot
he said
more.
Fishing.
Tennis, swimming, golf, fishing, bowling, and volleyball, tennis, swimming, golf, fishing, bowling, and there's a whole lot more.
You heard him right there.
I want
folks.
to offer them activities to keep them here in Bossier City and bring more people to Bossier.
Not just that.
He had the tennis thing down pat.
Yeah.
So you saying you're on board with the tennis thing? The tennis mafia? You've changed on me?
Look, if it helps get fishing in, I might change my mind about the tennis deal a little bit. I'm really just kidding, but hold on a second because but wait, there's more. And I also went back and found the August 2021 SB Magazine issue, the wedding issue, by the way, and there was a quote in there from Tommy. And it says, and I quote, basically the same thing that he just said. I just want to get a lot more things for the kids to do, more activities. I would love to have travel soccer, even travel fishing. So where is our future mayor, Jeremy Gallman here? Gallman, Tommy's on board with travel fishing. Pickleball and all of that. I want an assortment of things in here. I want to get an assortment of things in here. So look, he even mentions pickleball. Who was it that's always on the pickleball in the comments?
Well, wait a minute. I think pickleball was a subject of discussion when they were talking about doling out $2.5 million. Ken Stevens says $1.5 million. I mean, everybody's trying to correct me here. I'm pretty sure I saw $2.5 million somewhere.
I thought I was right with $1 million. That's the one that they actually didn't take any action on. Thank goodness.
You may be. That was so long ago. It was almost a year ago that, last year that we were talking about this tennis court thing. But, pickleball, I think at a council meeting they were saying it may have been Hambone or it may have been Chris Smith talking about, couldn't we try to expand pickleball? We could, allow more people to participate and all that. And here you go. You got Tommy Chandler, a quote saying exactly that, but yet he was all in on spending all that money for tennis.
Where's my fishing money, Tommy? We need fishing money for the high school and the junior kids. We have a league with a couple of hundred kids in it, or a couple of leagues with a few hundred kids in it right now They're already established. We're already doing it on the private side. We just need y'all to subsidize and spend some more taxpayer dollars, spend everybody else's money, including my own, and help us out with the fishing, Tommy.
Oh, my wife has done weighed in on the conversation.
Oh, no. I segued to fishing.
I know, but she's just going to keep dragging us right back.
Since he can't catch y'all, hold on, let's see. Since he can't catch y'all at an orgy and blackmail you guys to go along, he's bribing you with goodies.
You and your fishing.
Hey, well, all right. David Jones says he's doing his part, and I want to be clear, that's not anything to do with the orgy business. Yeah, actually, David, and I want to give you a shout out because you have been pretty instrumental in helping us guide through a little bit of red tape on the high school fishing side. So,
Yeah,
we certainly appreciate that.
he has, and a lot of folks may not realize that, but Mr. Jones serves on the Red River Waterway Commission, and they have been a proactive group supporting, youth fishing on
Yes,
the
they
river and other. I mean, they've been trying to promote. I mean, I think that's one government entity that has been, I'm going to say, doing it right. And I mean, and I look, I like David. I mean, we had some disagreements when he was in Bossier City and a councilman, but good Lord, who did I not have disagreements with back then? But I'll say, I mean, I think that group is on the right path.
Yeah, they're doing good things, and we'll talk about it some more. We've got some tournaments upcoming and all that here pretty soon. And anyway, you know me, I'm going to mix a little bit of fishing into the show anyway, so we'll talk about that on some upcoming episodes and get a little more into it. But anyway, just wanted to give a shout out to David. But getting back to Tommy, though, I mean, this is really a big deal. I mean, it kind of goes back to the point that I've tried to make before, though, and several other people have too. Where does it stop?
Well, where does it stop? I mean, a lot of folks may not realize this or not. And I'm thinking, in 2022, Rex, we put out a lot of information about things that took place in Bossier City. The one, thing in, burr in my saddle is the Shed Road crossing.
Yeah.
And how much of a debacle that was. And it was primarily because that's a historical thing. It's an important thing. I mean, I don't know, and a lot of you, some folks, they may not be lifelong residents, but I was born in Bossier City, Bossier Medical Center, right there at the corner of Airline Drive and Shed Road. That's where I was born. Bossier City, this is my home. This is where, I hang my hat. And when some bunch of jackwagons come in here, and I'm just going to say it, piss on our historical legacy, like Shed Road, the oldest road in Bossier City, it gets my gall. I mean, it pisses me off. I'm sorry, and we highlighted a lot of those things, and now there's a lot of things that have taken place over the years, and it's starting to compound. And David Jones, you're just gonna have to stick a sock in it and eat this crow. But I think some of the chickens are finally coming home to roost. In Bossier City, you got some problems brewing, and you got some problems brewing with debt, and that debt is coming to a head. And anyway, I'm just gonna stop right there. Go ahead, Rick. Take over. I'm gonna say something that I probably shouldn't say.
Well, all right. So let me switch screens again over here. Hold on. Bear with me for just a second here. Let me get things set up. So, speaking of that, I want to, or speaking of the amount of information that we shared out, let me get these screens over here. Okay. Let me get Tommy out of the way. Let me hit publish. We'll have a nice blank screen. Okay.
And the point I think we were trying to make is the quantity of debt, that Bossier City is adding up, and the quantity of money that's coming in. The rubber is about to meet the road, per se.
Well, it is, and one of the things that, we have harped on since we started this show back in, what was it, October 21? October 20? I forget now. Anyway, we're at 130 something, 137 shows. Anyway, one of the things that we said that we were going to harp on was putting the information out there and talking about things that nobody else wanted to talk about or would talk about. That everybody wants to talk about it, but nobody seems to actually do it. And one of the things is what goes on at the city council and the police jury meetings. Not that many people actually talk about what goes on. Yeah, Jeff Sadow does some articles. Maybe the local news media will do some puff pieces or whatever. But nobody's talking about the fact that just this money for the tennis courts that they want to spend, that is borrowed money, borrowed at an interest rate. So it's not just $1.5 million or whatever it was going to be. It's plus the interest over X amount of time. Now,
and when Jeff Sadow says that Bossier City has the highest, debt per resident of any city in the state of Louisiana, you know what? That math is correct.
I'm correct.
I'm sorry.
That math is correct. Lie. And speaking of residents of the city, so I pulled this up, and I'm trying to segue into this too. I posted this a few days ago, but I wanted you to see, or everybody to see on the show live, the audience members and kind of how our show breaks down. All right, because we've got several thousand people following the show. We've got several thousand more that watch the show, kind of anonymously, whether that's on YouTube or whatever. But I find it pretty interesting. I find it really interesting that we've got twice as many people that are women that watch the show and follow our posts on Facebook as we do men. That's interesting.
Now, Rex, I'm glad that you sent that to me before you put that out publicly.
Yeah.
Because I wanted to point out to Kara that, there's a reason for that number being like it is.
Really?
Yeah,
well, here we go.
All that hotness going on up in here,
You fireman guys are killing me.
Just, had to let her know, and gotta tell you, it worked out pretty good. You can share them kind of numbers with me anytime.
Were you the one that called into the sheriff's office about that apartment deal?
Somebody told you?
I couldn't resist it, dude.
How did you know?
I found out that you have an apartment over there off Airline Drive. Seriously. Okay. Also, wanted to point out, and these are just 2022 numbers. Did you know we put out a lot of content?
I don't track it, to be honest with you. I come on here, I just do my deal. I don't know. I don't look at the numbers. You tell me the numbers, because I don't know.
Just in our Facebook, now this doesn't include YouTube, this is just Facebook alone, we had people watch 756,000 minutes of content.
Did you say 756,000?
Yes, that's basically total number of views, what Facebook says, at least an total aggregate of what people viewed the content. So, if one person watches a 2-hour show, that's 180 minutes or 120 minutes.
Well, dadgum, that says to me we either pissed off a lot of people or a lot of people are just liking us pissing other people off. One of the two.
Yeah. So anyway, shout out to everybody that is watching the show, sharing, tagging people, and doing all that sort of thing. Who would have thought that you would want to listen to two guys rambling on for a couple of hours every Tuesday night about local political stuff and, well, sometimes not so political stuff.
I think you remember, and one of the things that we started the show was because of my Bossier. Remember?
Yeah, Jim Wells.
I mean, Jim. Jim, my wife, is raiding my room, and I can hear myself talking. There's a delay. How interesting is that? Anyway, yeah. Jim Wells had my Bossier, and my Bossier was a peek into what has become Bossier Watch, I think, because Jim Wells tapped into informing the public about what was going on within, the different entities of Bossier parish and Bossier City government. And, you know, you and I followed that a long time ago. And that's, I think, where we got our lead and where we're going with this thing. And people need to be more informed. They can't go to all these meetings. They can't go to the police chief meetings. They can't go to all the council meetings. So thankfully for technology, we've got this to be able to inform people and keep them up to speed with what's going on, and they can weigh in when they want to weigh in.
Yeah, and as most folks have seen, Duke and I are pretty lax with the comments. I think we may have banned or deleted one comment maybe in all this time. So we're pretty much free to say whatever you want in the comments within reason. No personal attacks, blah blah blah, and all that sort of thing. Okay, so I have no idea where I'm going with that, and
Well,
I'm not following the notes right now, but that's got to lead
well,
into term limits or spending money somehow.
well, I want to talk a little bit, Rex. I want to take a moment. So
Okay.
there's something like really important happening this week, and nobody, absolutely nobody, zero, nada, anybody is even talking about it. They don't even realize it's going on.
Is this a
Well,
SCOTUS case that you're talking about?
yes, it is.
Yeah,
Now
I saw you put that in the notes. I was trying to quickly read up on it, but I didn't have time. So,
I
what's the deal with
mentioned it.
this?
I mentioned it last year. So
Okay.
for everybody watching and for you, Rex, okay,
hmm
what does everybody think about the 2020 election? Do you think that Joe Basement Biden actually beat Donald Trump? Do you believe it? Now I know where you stand, Rex. I know that you think, well, he lost it, and Biden legitimately won.
Well, let me be clear. I think we lost it. And I'm not saying no shenanigans went on. I'm not saying that at all. I'm saying it is likely that some shenanigans did happen. But I would remind you that Trump barely won in 2016, and pretty much the exact opposite happened at the 2016 election, because at 11 o'clock, Hillary was in the lead, and Gina and I stayed up till, well, I forget what it was when it finally swung,
Well,
11 or 12 o'clock. So we're trying to have our cake and eat it too situation. But here's what I'll say, and I'll let you interject. I think some shenanigans went on, absolutely. I think all those shenanigans need to be looked into and corrected. I am not convinced it was enough to swing the election, and I've said this over and over and over. The Democrats and the liberals, the far left, and even some of the moderates are breeding and bringing in immigrants faster than we are. And
oh,
until the Republican Party decides to focus on bringing people into the party and changing that dynamic, those little blue dots are going to continue to win overall. We may have some more anomalies. Maybe Trump will win
okay,
again. I don't know.
okay.
But they're going to be anomalies.
You said a lot right there, and there's several points, and I've got a follow-up question for you.
Mm-hmm.
Do you think that the allegations of fraud in 2020 were investigated thoroughly?
I would say at this point, they have been, because there have been a whole lot of conservatives thoroughly investigating them.
Well,
And
now wait a
I
minute.
haven't seen anything. I've seen some cases where there are isolated pockets that
Well,
may have some ballots that need to be changed, but
well,
nothing that would
well,
add up
I'm not
to
talking
Trump
about
actually winning the popular vote.
I'm not talking about, one side, let's just say somebody that believes they were robbed of an election, investigating and identifying fraudulent activities, and then having a court or a day in court where all of the evidence is put forward, and it's the light of day is able to sanitize out the truth.
Mm-hmm.
That's what I'm talking about, because I don't think that there's been any case really come forward that has been able to be put forward and debated and argued and had people
All right. let me ask you
argue
this.
against and argue
How,
for.
let me ask you something that I know you know the answer to. How is the president elected and the vice president?
Each state has an election, and whoever is determined by that state, to have won that state's majority of votes,
Mm-hmm.
is given the electors for that
Right.
state. The electoral Congress meets, casts votes for who won that state. Those electoral votes are counted. At least that's the way it's supposed to be. They're
Right.
counted, and whoever gets the most electoral votes is determined to be the winner.
Okay. Biden
But,
lost. Biden won.
but,
Unfortunately.
well, that's what you say. But, so did you know, and did everybody watching the show know, did you know that the 2020 election is not done with? That there's actually a case that's being heard this week in front of the Supreme Court, SCOTUS, the Supreme Court of the United States? Did you know that?
I did not until I looked up the case. And let me see. Go ahead and kind of give us a summary synopsis, and I'm going to
Okay.
get it pulled up on the screen.
So, what a lot of people may not realize, a lot of folks filed cases. You remember Texas and Louisiana. We even had Royal Alexander come on the show, and we talked about a case that Texas and numerous states joined in to, file against the results of the election. I don't even remember the whole case, but SCOTUS ended up refusing to hear the case, and they said, you don't have standing. You don't have
Right.
standing. And and that's why I asked the question about, do you believe that all these things have been thoroughly investigated?
Mm-hmm.
These charges. Well, the reason I asked that, because this case right here, this guy, Raylan J. Brunson, files a suit, and the Supreme Court is hearing this case this week, and he's saying that by virtue, and he names all the defendants, and all the defendants, I'm going to tell all of you guys who the defendants are. The defendants are the current president of the United States, the current vice president of the United States, and every congressman and senator that was elected, or however you want to say it, put in place, appointed, whatever, that all of them have breached, their oath of office, to protect and defend the Constitution by not investigating or taking any action on the fraudulent election of 2020. Now,
But that's not the most interesting thing about this case to me. Here's the real interesting thing. He's a petitioner in pro se. He has no attorney.
that's right. Now, you know what's
And it's at SCOTUS.
what's really important about that? Because everybody thinks, all of you out there watching the show right now, all of you think, and you've all been led to believe your whole life, that you have to have an attorney to be able to go to court.
All right. Well, now, I did a little quick research, so my numbers may not be correct. But in cases where the plaintiff is pro se, they generally win only 4% of the time. And that makes this case more amazing. Not that he's won anything yet, but that it got to SCOTUS.
But when it comes to standing and getting your day in court and getting heard, I would argue that maybe pro se, you're more likely, and you have standing when you file pro se rather than having an attorney. And I think that might be part of the point here. I mean, I'm no lawyer, and I'd love for a lawyer to weigh in here, but yeah, keep going down right here. The questions presented.
I'm just
There's a
going to
part of
scroll.
this to read that's pretty amazing.
Yeah, we'll post a link to this, or actually, I'll post the pages of it on Facebook.
He names all of Congress, the president, the vice president, and he basically says that all of them violated their oaths of office to support and defend the Constitution by intentionally refusing to investigate and ensure that an honest and fair election took place in 2020 when allegations were made. And, you know, he argues that as well, that, you know, the members of Congress are obligated to, you know, reject electoral college vote submissions from states whose electoral systems are flawed, because there are rules that each state has to have, you know, to even submit electors to the electoral college. And, you know, he submits that the defendants, by virtue of not, you know, investigating, they allowed fraudulent votes to be able to be counted in the 2020 election. And here's the, it's being heard by SCOTUS. How does this case all of a sudden get heard by SCOTUS? How does that happen?
Good question. That I don't know the answer to.
And so,
but
I'm just telling you guys, you should watch this case.
Yeah, and I'm just skimming through this thing right now, but he says a successfully rigged election has the same end result as an act of war. Let's see. He also said that during this proceeding, which was January the 6th, let me highlight this. During this proceeding, over 100 members of U.S. Congress claimed factual evidence that said the election was rigged. The refusal of the respondents to investigate this congressional claim is an act of treason and fraud by respondents.
Now,
interesting.
What if, now Rex, you'll remember this. A lot of folks watching, y'all may not remember this, but Rex, remember this. What did I gave you a theory. I said in 2 years, what was going to happen potentially?
Well, I don't remember exactly what you said, to be honest. But then again, I don't remember what I had.
You had to wait 2 years because because a president can only serve 2 terms, right?
Right.
But after 2 years, he could serve a temporary term and then be able to run for his second term and end up having 10 years total as POTUS.
Right.
Look at what we had happen today. What happened today in Congress?
Well, and again, you were getting me up to speed because I haven't paid attention the last couple of weeks, but the Speaker of the House has become a contentious issue.
So for the first time since 1923, you don't have a Speaker of the House on the first day that they convene to elect the Speaker of the House. In fact, you had 3 votes today that ended up, you know, not determining who was going to be the Speaker of the House. Kevin McCarthy was, quote unquote, supposed to be the head guy to end up being the Speaker of the House. And they had 3 votes, and he didn't get enough votes to become the Speaker of the House. Nobody did.
Well, good for him.
There was a group of conservative legislators that held out, Matt Gaetz being I would say the organizer or the ringleader of it, that wouldn't go along, but they held out and wouldn't vote for Kevin McCarthy. And some of the reasons that they cite for not voting for Kevin McCarthy was because of his support for Ukraine. Right. That he would say, you need to stop. He wouldn't let the party focus on election integrity or the fact that there was election fraud, saying that there is no fraud. We don't need to even look at fraud at all. Now, I say that to say, have any of you followed Arizona? In Arizona, you know, you had the guy that runs the elections there, Stephen Richter, admit that, we printed ballots, you know, on 20-inch paper when they're supposed to be printed on 19-inch paper. But that didn't have nothing to do with all the machines messing up in all the primarily Republican counties where they just by chance printed 20-inch ballots rather than 19-inch ballots. You know, that had nothing to do with it. Zero. Not a thing.
Well, let me ask you this. And so this goes back up to the question, or basically comment that Michael Ferris put up and showed up on the screen just a second ago. And let me see if I can find it. All right, so let me put it up here again. He says, too far gone to reverse. So let me ask you this. Let's say SCOTUS looks at this case and says, yep, we agree with it. They should have done it. Bam. Biden's no longer president. What happens then?
Reset.
Define reset.
New elections across the board. Congress, president, the whole 9 yards. Biden, Trump. Again.
All right, so is it just for the remainder of this term, and we hold the elections, which would at the earliest be next year?
I don't know.
Or this fall, 2023, this fall, 2023. Let's just imaginarily say that were the case. So then whoever's elected is put into office. Let's just say they did it, and let's say Trump got elected, and they immediately put Trump into office. So that would be...
They wouldn't immediately put Trump into office, but they would. I would think a ruling could potentially deem the existing holders of the seats not holders of the seat. They're ineligible. The seats are vacant. Election has to be held.
That presents a quandary.
It does. I mean, but we're in.
I mean, we're just hypothetically speaking here.
We're in totally uncharted territory here. But again. Look, I admit this is black helicopters and a stretch, but the stretch here is the Supreme Court is hearing this case.
Right.
They freaking took it. They didn't just blow this case off and say, we're not putting up with that crap. No, this is freaking being heard. I mean, it's getting top shelf. I mean, Texas, Louisiana, a majority of the states of the country filed a petition to the Supreme Court, and the Supreme Court wouldn't hear it. But this one guy is able to bring a case? I mean, and they're going to hear it? I mean, come on now.
Well, we'll see. So you're saying there is hope?
Look, I'm as long on Trump, and the reason I'm long on Trump, I mean, and all of y'all can hate me for whatever reason. It ain't that I like his haircut. I mean, he's got more hair than me, but it ain't that I like his haircut. It's not it at all. You know what I think? And it's what I've said before. The best thing for you, Rex, and for me, and for all of you watching the show is for Washington, D.C. to be dysfunctional. We do better when they're all jacked up. And who better to jack all them up than to send somebody that can go in there and be a bull in the china cabinet like Donald Trump, break the glass, break the doors, knock over the tables. That's the guy I want. We all do better when that happens.
Look, I've said from the beginning, the reason that I voted for Trump and voted for Trump a second time, and might even consider voting a third time, is SCOTUS and other judiciary picks. Other than that, I don't care. The drain the swamp deal, it's not going to happen. Draining the swamp means literally getting rid of all of DC, a complete reset, and installing new people. And nobody has a stomach for all that, and I'm not advocating for that, blah, 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 before the Facebook monitors and YouTube monitors get us or whatever. I'm saying nobody has a stomach for that, and it's too far gone.
Okay, hold up. If the Facebook monitors want to cut us off at the knees and they want to do it, they're a part of it. And right now, this show right now, they're a part of it. Elon Musk is showing emails right now of congressmen, departments of the government trying to censor people's speech that, and in one case, it was just released today, trying to remove people and their speech simply because they didn't like them. Nothing more, not for a valid reason, but because they didn't like them. Elon Musk released that today. And Facebook has been doing that too. They're doing the bidding of government.
Thank goodness that Elon is basically real life Iron Man. But here's the deal with that. And I've said this from the beginning. those are private companies. Twitter is a private company. Facebook is a private company. YouTube is a private company. We either have to play by their rules and stretch it as far as we can. We had a show get zapped off of YouTube.
Absolutely, we did. But
and
look,
we've had shows get muted on YouTube or on Facebook for stupid copyright. But my point is, hold on, let me finish. My point is, there's this thing called the internet. It's a really cool invention that Al Gore did not help with. Actually, he did help get some of the initial funding, but Al Gore did not invent the internet. But there's this real cool thing generally referred to as the internet. And it's like playing whack-a-mole. For every mole that they try to squash over here on Twitter, pre-Elon, or even Elon, I mean, heck, he's squashing the guy that's, putting his plane itinerary out there, and that's public information. I have a problem with that with Elon, as much as I like Elon. But there's this thing called the internet. So for every one mole that you whack, another one pops up. And we haven't even gotten into the whole dark web and all sorts of things that are there. So my point of this is, Twitter and Facebook are not that important. They're just king of the hill right now. And honestly, Twitter is not, by the numbers, is not that big of a king of the hill. It's not. By the numbers. It's just that we see Twitter and tweets everywhere in the news media because they project it to be. Okay? Facebook is where the money is. Facebook right now is where the advertisers are. Not Twitter. Facebook. And there's a reason for that.
But I'm just saying, I mean, look, I believe, I'm that guy. If we've got to tear the whole system out by its roots and rebuild it, because I don't think anybody would disagree. Our whole system right now, who believes, do you think you can watch mainstream media right now, and do you think you can get an honest assessment or the true news without it being slanted by the editors or whoever is at that media? Do you think you can get it?
Absolutely not. I watch all mainstream media with with my own filter on.
That's right.
So, but hold on. And so this is the problem that most people have on both sides of the aisle. Both sides, if we consider the U.S. in a 50-50 divide right now, which I know it's not really, but let's consider for argument's sake that it's in a 50-50 divide right now. People tend to watch either or. I watch all of them and make my own educated judgment or dissemination of the information based on multiple sources and just using intuition and common sense. That's the way I do it. I don't just watch Fox News or Newsmax or CNN or pick your poison.
Okay, well, let's put this to a test, Rex. I have a proposition. Right. I got a proposition. Okay, so for all of you watching, here's the test, and you've got to, in the comments, you got to comment. You got to comment. Here's the test. Do you think Mike Johnson voted for Kevin McCarthy to be the Speaker of the House, or do you think he voted against?
Well, I don't know the answer, so I won't say.
Yeah, you can't say. So everybody in the comments, you say, did Mike Johnson, you got to do it real quick. You can't go looking and doing a search. You got to pipe it in right now. Yes, he voted for Kevin McCarthy, or no, he voted against Kevin McCarthy right now, because he is conservative, to the core. No way he would vote for, sending money to Ukraine, not defend their border, not defend our border. No way. Amnesty for illegals. I mean, come on now. Let's have the votes. Let's see. Let's put this to the test right now.
Now, isn't he supposed to be talking about MJ, the one who walks on water or thinks he does? Isn't he supposed to be Mr. Ultra Conservative? I mean, for goodness sakes, he flew around with Trump taking selfies.
Oh, he was all on. But wait a minute. No, wait a minute.
Wade's got it.
Trump, I know, I've seen it. Trump believes that the elections were stolen. Yeah, I knew it. I seen that was the one. Wade Lovelace, he's the bomb.
Yeah.
I mean, look, Trump believes the elections were stolen. Kevin McCarthy believes we shouldn't talk about the elections, that there was no election fraud. There wasn't any of that crap. Yes, all of y'all.
Again,
Mike Johnson is carrying the water of the swamp. Kevin McCarthy.
well, of course he
He is
is.
the, he's the
It's in
water
Mike's best
carrier.
interest to.
But all of you guys, you won't have nothing to do with Mike Johnson's not in it for all of y'all. He's in it for Mike
He's
Johnson.
in it for Mike Johnson.
He's in it for Mike Johnson.
And look, I don't hold that against MJ. They're all in it for themselves. Every one of them. We have a mutual political friend who I won't out at the moment, who randomly texts us when it's to his benefit, but rarely texts us or answers when it's not to his benefit.
Yeah, but Mike Johnson, if he wanted, I mean, and this segues into our next subject, but you guys, everybody out there watching in media, I mean, I don't know how you get the truth other than, and I'm not saying that we're right all the time. We're right all the time, but
No.
look, I mean, we're
injecting our opinion of things.
Yeah, and people don't like us.
Right.
I mean, we're losing friends over us saying the crap that we say, but Mike Johnson is in it for Mike Johnson.
Yeah,
he is. He's voting for Kevin McCarthy. You don't vote for Kevin McCarthy and you're a conservative. That don't happen. You know how I know that? You want to know the right, Rex? I have a link put in the notes. I don't know where it's at. We got to go down here. I think I put it.
All right, let me see if I can find it.
You got to play this.
I haven't even been keeping up with the notes so far, so let me find it. Is this, let's see, where is it?
It was a Twitter link.
I got it. The Lou Dobbs deal? The Lou Dobbs
Yes.
Right,
Now, I want you guys, look, you may not be a conservative. You may be a leftist Democrat. But I want you to listen to the words of this guy. He will repulse you if you're a leftist Democrat. If you're a conservative, you're going to love him. But I want you to listen to the words and the reasoning that he's saying. Take out the people here. Just listen to the words of why he's saying you should support a certain person.
Okay.
Listen to the why.
Here we go.
And sometimes we have to do jobs that we are called to do. And so, my colleagues, I rise to nominate the most talented, hardest working member of the Republican conference who just gave a speech with more vision than we have ever heard from the alternative. I'm nominating Jim Jordan. Jim Jordan is humble, perhaps today humble to a fault. Maybe the right person for the job of Speaker of the House isn't someone who wants it so bad. Maybe the right person for the job of Speaker of the House isn't someone who has sold shares of themselves for more than a decade to get it. Maybe Jim Jordan is the right person for Speaker of the House because he is not beholden to the lobbyists and special interests who have corrupted this place and corrupted this nation under the leadership of both Republicans and Democrats. Maybe Jim Jordan would be the right person for Speaker of the House because he wouldn't fight us when we try to get a term limits bill on the floor. Maybe Jim Jordan would be the right person because he wouldn't fight us when we try to put a balanced budget on the floor and vote for it. And maybe Jim Jordan is the right person because he would endorse the plan that was built by the Texas delegation to finally secure our border. Mr. Jordan said in his nomination that there are certain bills that we have to pass to fix the problem. The challenge is the alternative has been someone voting for the very bills that have caused these problems. Mr. Jordan says that we cannot accept legislation like the omnibus, and I fully agree. And if Jim Jordan were Speaker of the House, if he were the leader of the Republican team, we wouldn't have that circumstance choking the economy of our country, increasing inflation, and diminishing the prospects of a better life for our fellow Americans. And finally, Mr. Jordan said we must engage in rigorous oversight. Every one of my Republican colleagues knows that the person who can lead that oversight effort, who works on it every day, who has the skill and the talent and the will, is Jim Jordan. I'm nominating him, and I'm voting for him.
Okay.
All right.
Humble, And Greg Bell is right. Jim Jordan endorsed McCarthy. In fact, Jim Jordan stepped up and he's the one that nominated McCarthy to be the speaker. The point of it is you've got a guy who is sitting back in the background and is going to be a servant. He doesn't need the limelight. He doesn't need to be on the stage. He doesn't need to be front and center. He's just what Matt Getz just said, humble. That's the person that you need to be out front. You don't need the person who is desiring to be in the limelight. We need the person who he doesn't care about the limelight. He doesn't care about the fact that whether his name is on the front page or the third or fourth page of the paper. We need the guy who's willing to get in the trenches. That's the point of this.
Yeah, but here's a problem with that. I agree with everything you said and everything you said. But here's the problem with that. We need more than one guy.
Absolutely you do. But Kevin McCarthy is swamped. Amnesty for illegals, breaking the law. You're basically saying the law doesn't mean nothing. Let's give amnesty for all the people that did it the right way. You know what? Screw them. If they would have just broke the law, they would be able to circumvent the process. Is that what we should support? Ukraine. We've spent how much money sending to Ukraine when we could have spent just a little bit of that to support people here at home who are hurting? I mean, why couldn't we do that? No. I mean, I'm sorry. Mike Johnson, you're not a conservative, supporting Kevin McCarthy. You're not. You're swamp. You're swamp. You're out for yourself. I'm sorry. That may offend a lot of people, and I don't care if you're mad at me. If you're mad at me, you ain't got to watch the show no more. It's fine.
Well, the problem, and I don't know what the solution is. I really don't. But the problem is again, it goes back to what I said about this draining the swamp was a great campaign slogan, but that's literally all it is because it is absolutely impossible. Impossible. And it presents an impossible challenge, and anybody that says they're going to go there and help drain the swamp is blowing smoke up your rear end.
Well, anybody that thinks that we should be, we haven't touched on this one, Rex, and this will get Facebook on our ass. Pardon my French.
Hey, it's our show. We can say what we want.
Yeah, I'm sorry if I offend a lot of y'all, but I'm just going to say it like it is. If you're on the pro-Ukraine bandwagon, and especially if you're one of those leftist Democrats that are always calling conservatives and Republicans racist and all this crap, I'm just wondering, how do you resolve the fact that Ukraine funds and supports and props up the Azov Battalion? And if you're not familiar with the Azov Battalion, just so you know, that's one of the old Third Reich Hitler, white supremacy groups. Just so you know, that's what you're supporting. You knew that, Rex, right?
Well,
the Azov Battalion. I mean, so for everybody,
if you buy a Porsche or a Volkswagen, you're also supporting that deal.
Well, yeah. Well, anyway, but so for all those people that are calling you because you're white, you're a racist, and at the same time they're saying, oh, we should be sending all this freaking money to Ukraine or whatever. You're all propping up white supremacists. I mean, I may be pissing off a lot of people here, people that like our show, people that I'm friends with. I'm not a racist. I don't hate black people. I don't hate brown people. I don't hate purple people, whatever. I'm not that guy. I've been called a racist because I had my beliefs about Islam and Muslims. I mean, they went after me in a political race over that. But there's a difference between a organization that calls themselves a religious organization that is actually a political movement. That's not a religion. I'm sorry, there's a distinction to be made there. But over there, the Azov, that's That's racist thing. And we're funding it. The United States government is funding it. And to support Kevin McCarthy, you're funding, the Azov. Mike Johnson is funding Azov. He's in favor of that by supporting Kevin McCarthy.
All right, so I want to point out a couple of comments. One, future Mayor Jeremy Gallman, let me bring it back up, says we can't even drain the swamp locally, much less on a national level. Thank you, Jeremy. You're 100% correct so far.
Jeremy Gallman is right. Go ahead. Sorry.
Oh, that's okay. Paul Johnson says if they're not going to drain the swamp, then this and the Republican Party is all pointless. That is a fair assessment, Paul. It's not that they're not going to drain the swamp. I think there's a small handful that would actually like to do it. They can't. It's an impossible task anymore. And then Kaylee Larkin says, fun game, name me Congressman Mike Johnson's actual employment stats other than being a lifelong elected official. Well, I can answer that easily, Kaylee. He tells us all the time. He's a constitutional attorney.
Constitutional attorney, absolutely. But did he do his constitutional job in investigating, whether there was fraud in the 2020 election or not? Look, I've got screenshots of him literally changing his public statements on the election in 2020. I mean, he made a post, he said one thing, then he changed it within an hour because things changed. He changed it so that you would have a different perception of what he was doing in 2020. Mike Johnson called me out and say I'm lying. I've got it saved. I captured all of it.
We could show some more screenshots.
It's just like Bossier City and all these people riding around with a designated driver that's not employed by the city, so they got a designated driver in a city vehicle. I got that too.
Kaylee says cases. I said with receipts. Let's see. There was that case with the Bossier School Board and the what was the name of that place that? Christ Fit Gym. There were those cases. He helped them out with constitutional law. He's done lots of good things with constitutional law, Kaylee.
Yeah. So don't worry, Duke. He'll call my mom, husband, or myself first. That's all right. Take up my slack, Kaylee. I appreciate it. Right. Hey, you know what? Talking about term limits, races, and all this thing, there's a lot of races going on. We got, right now front and center is the race for Speaker of the House. And for the first time since 1923, I mean, they're deadlocked. They're going to reconvene tomorrow at noon. They had 3 votes today. Kevin McCarthy couldn't get there because we've got conservatives, not including Mike Johnson, standing up to drain the swamp and, protect our republic and bring us back from the abyss. But there's
look, I'm usually a glasses half full guy, and so I hate to sound overly negative. So maybe there is some hope. Maybe, maybe they won't just all vote to go along. Maybe they'll drag this on for a few more days at least.
Maybe they will.
At least make a point.
But guys, look, still 100 folks sitting here watching the show. We appreciate all of y'all hanging in here, listening to us dribble and babble on. I mean, look, we're y'all. Me and Rex were talking about this before the show, and there was something that we talked about earlier, and we talked about talking about on the show about elected officials. And the truth of the matter is they're just regular people like us too. Now they get the big head, and they think they're more than you and me. They think they're better than us, and they think whatever. But you know what? That comes back on us that we got to put their butts in check, and we got to let them know. And that brings 2023 in perspective. The races are already happening. It's happening now. It's starting. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And you see it right now with Speaker of the House. I mean, people are jockeying. A lot of regular people that Rex are not political people. You and I are political people. We follow it more so, and we're doing this show. We're trying to bring it down to a palatable level. Did that sound condescending? That sounded condescending, didn't it?
You sounded a little elitist.
I did, didn't I? I'm sorry for that. I apologize if anybody was offended. I didn't mean to come across that way.
All this talking about DC has rubbed off on you that quickly, dude.
It has. See how it happens? Golly, I almost good grief. Okay, but anyway, So this segment, we want to talk about for to those of you folks that are out there. I mean, there's a lot of you that are good people, and you're the people that we need serving, because a lot of the folks that are serving, they don't need to be serving. Their why that they're serving is wrong,
They're
and
self-serving.
they're self-serving. Yeah, exactly, Rex. Their why is messed up. And some of you have considered running, some of you have thought about running. Look, the school board people, they just marched in everybody that they wanted to march in. I mean, they got a full slate. Nobody even challenged them. Nobody questioned them. Nobody challenged them. And guess what? Now you're going to get books in school that's going to have crazy crap in the books teaching your kids stupid stuff that ain't no way you would agree to, but you won't know about it until after the fact. And then you'll fight. And that's before the fact, when you could have fought ahead of time. So
True. It even goes down to the core basic level with the Bossier Parish Republican Executive Committee. I mean, we all know what happened with that.
that's exactly right. So putting that in perspective, I can tell you for a fact, Rex, you know that I still fight. I'm still on the Bossier Parish Republican Executive Committee. And you heard Matt Getz talk about a while ago, and he made a mention about term limits. Did you hear that when he made that statement?
Yes.
That's an interesting thing, because I'm telling you guys, even though we've got this show, and then some people call it, and I'm going to use the phrase that they use, the stupid show, even though we've got the stupid show, I'm just like y'all. I'm just a regular guy, okay? But I also volunteer and commit my time for my personal beliefs. A lot of you watching, you may not believe, you may not agree with me. That's fine. We can disagree. But are you fighting for your belief? I'm fighting for mine. And my belief is we should have term limits. And with that said, I can tell you, get ready, because I'm fixing to punch somebody in the jaw with some term limits. It's coming.
Well, that's a good segue, because let's segue into term limits for our local officials. Let's bring this out of DC, because we have to be careful. The elitism was starting to rub off on you just a tad.
Yeah, I agree.
And let's bring this back to a local level and Bossier. And the easy target to pick on is the city council and the mayor.
The city council, now what makes this bad is you had city councilmen run on that they believe there needed to be a charter commission. They believe that there needed to be term limits. But more importantly, you had a mayor ran on the issue of term limits.
Wait,
right?
which mayor was that? Because would it surprise you to know that Low Walker has an opinion on term limits? And I know Low is not mayor anymore, but this is relevant because of what he said and when he said it.
Well, I think we should probably hear from him. If you think we should hear from him,
let's drag Low into this conversation. So here is former mayor. What was he? He was in office or associated with the city for 32 years total, or whatever it was. But anyway, here is Low Walker. And let's listen to what he has to say.
Term limits was a big issue. It's an emotional issue with people, and it's sort of national now, I think. There's been so much concern at the national level of the way politics is being done and the term limits. So it's sort of filtering down the local level, and I begin to see more and more people pushing for term limits. And we have a procedure in our charter that permits that, should we go, but the ultimate term limits is the voters, and they voted a new person in office, and that's the way voters have spoken.
Do you know what's interesting about that video clip right there, Duke?
I am dying to know. What was so interesting about that?
Do you know when Lowe said that?
I am dying to know.
The night that he lost to none other than Tommy Chandler.
So you're saying that he equated his loss to the desire for term limits, and the campaign of his opponent, Tommy Chandler, is espousing to support term limits.
Yeah, so this is to be fair and to put this into full context. This is on KTAL's Channel 6's YouTube channel, and that's where I got this from. But he said this the night of the election loss and was being interviewed by the guy, and of all the things that he could have picked to talk about on the subject of the race and how it went, he picked term limits.
That's an amazing thing. So wait a minute. Robert Wright says yes for term limits. I don't like term limits because it tells me I can and can't vote for someone. The government should not tell who to vote for, but now we need term limits. So, Robert Wright, are you saying that if the people argue on behalf of term limits, that's the government? If a majority of the people are saying, hey, we want term limits, you're saying that that's the government doing it?
Or is that, would that be the people if the people voted in the representatives or directly voted if we just did it direct democracy or representative? Yeah, clarify. Clarify.
Yeah, you're gonna have to clarify that a little bit, Robert.
So
Lowe equated his loss to the desire for term limits, and Tommy Chandler has been where on term limits?
Well, correct me if I'm wrong, folks. Y'all put it in the comments. If you can link me to when Tommy has talked about term limits recently. I mean, has he even talked about them recently?
No, he hasn't talked about them, and he's not gonna talk about them.
Well, let's see what he has to say about it. So let's do a little time traveling here. Let me see if I can get this going here. Okay, so this is a Shreveport Times article, and according to the Shreveport Times, they had quoted Jeff Sadow with some stuff and all that. It was a longer article than this, obviously, but the Shreveport Times says Chandler says he strongly believes in term limits. And this was during the campaign. So this was actually before, of course, Tommy Chandler won. And now let's go through, and also we want to show this. This is from Tommy Chandler's official mayoral Facebook page during the campaign. You can see the date up there, February the 27th, 2021. No doubt about it, Tommy Chandler is for term limits. He even equates not having term limits to corruption. Term limits are a great way to influence the process of holding our city's elected officials accountable. Bossier City currently does not have term limits for city officials. As your next mayor, Tommy Chandler will support a 3-term limit for all city elected officials. A lack of fresh blood in leadership breeds corruption. So now they're breeding corruption. We need to bring fresh ideas to continue to develop our city and grow it year after year. Please vote for Tommy Chandler for mayor. Term limits ahead. Has anybody seen anything about term limits?
No, hadn't seen that. Hadn't seen it nowhere. It's AWOL. Not
Bueller. That's what it feels like here. Bueller. Anybody for term limits?
But I got a sneaking suspicion Tommy Chandler is going to get his wish, and we're going to be able to see whether or not he's willing to stand behind his campaign promises here very soon. I got a sneaking suspicion that's going to happen, Rex.
I think so too, because I'm gonna post these and play these clips and post these little screenshots all over the place. Also, another Shreveport Times article. I'm not a fan of the Shreveport Times, by the way, but says, and I have it highlighted, Chandler is a big proponent for term limits, something that was part of his campaign platform, as several council members have served in their capacity so long, some in the political field deemed the time excessive. If you have a 10-year quote from Tommy. If you have a 10-year plan, 3 terms is 12 years. Good math, Tommy. I know you can't do our 10-year plan in 12 years, but that can at least give you some time to get things going and get people under you that you can mentor and take your ideas after you leave in 12 years to make them even better. I don't think you need to be in there for more than 12 years.
So wait a minute. So I just want to clarify here and let me make sure what you're saying here. So basically what you're saying here is that Tommy Chandler and Alan Seaball support term limits.
Yeah. Our friend Seabiscuit is just bouncing from seat to seat to seat. Or trying to. Trying to anyway.
Okay. So
all right. We have a clarification from Robert Wright. So let's see what Robert Wright clarified. The point is, this is Robert Wright. The point is, I don't like term limits, but because of the situation, we must have term limits. When you have someone who doesn't like term limits, but is
now for term limits, tells you how bad it is.
Okay, well, that's good enough.
Good enough. Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. So, going into where we were kind of going down this road was 2023, and a lot of you folks out there, you got good hearts, you want good government, you want a good parish, you love your parish, you love your community, and you want to serve. You may or may not know how to serve. You may not have any idea what you need to do. I mean, we're telling you, look, if I was in a race, you should challenge me. You know why you should challenge me? You should challenge me to verify what my beliefs are and whether or not my beliefs match up with what the public's beliefs are. Not because you don't like me or because you don't agree with me, but you should run against me to challenge me and just make sure I'm where I should be to represent your values. It's not a bad thing. A lot of you don't know where to start. And, this year is going to be a big election year. A lot of people that are non-political, you're not thinking political. People who think political, they're already thinking about it right now. In fact, they're already taking action right now. And if you've ever had an interest in running for, say, police jury or the legislature, the time to be taking action and doing things is right now. Now, I think, Rex, that we made a mistake back during the school board thing because we didn't pitch enough to people, encouraging people that even though they're not political, that they don't have something to offer. Because there was hardly anybody challenged anybody in the school board races. Now, to the school system and the school board's credit, they have term limits. They do. And I actually didn't know that until Dennis Bamberg came on our show, and Dennis Bamberg corrected me because I didn't think they had term limits, but he corrected me and said, "Hey, we adopted it." And that's a credit to the school board that they did adopt that. But like we're pointing out here, where is Tommy Chandler? He ran on it and nothing's happened in Bossier City. Nothing. Zero. Nada.
Crickets
Police jury
everywhere.
Where's the police jury? Same thing. They got a dadgum box full of crickets. They plan on going catching a bunch of brim. So, with that said, for anybody out there, the police jury, legislative seats, the governor, attorney general, and I can tell you, a lot of your local public officials, they're already lining up, behind attorney general candidates, and they're going to try to push you in a direction for personal motives. And they're also aligning behind legislative candidates to push you in a direction for personal agendas that you don't even know about, you haven't even thought about. And the only way you can make a difference is you got to get in the game. If any of you have even considered running for police jury, or any seat, I mean, if you want to know what needs to happen if you're a Republican, I don't care even if you're a Democrat. I'll tell you what you need to do, to run. I mean, because I mean, I don't agree with you as a Democrat. I think that, some of your policies are wrong, and I'll debate you on them. And in my opinion, I'll show you that you're wrong. But if you believe you're right and you want to run, you should run. And I'll tell you what you have to do to run. It's just what I believe.
Right. And look, we've had plenty of people that we disagree with on the show, or disagree at least somewhat with. And so, pretty much anybody is welcome to come on the show, whether you're a Democrat or Republican or independent or, I don't know, whatever else. All right, so let me go ahead and send a text message over.
Sending it.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, let's see. Let me reply to this text just a second, folks.
Well, I said I was going to send it.
You want me to send it? Or you got it?
Go ahead.
All right. Let's see. Copy link. Okay, so just a second, folks. Oh, you got it. Okay.
So again, if anybody, I'm going to go on and jump on out and say this. So a lot of the police jury members, they don't like us. You're going to have the governor's race here in the fall. You're going to have the Secretary of State. You're going to have all of them, all the statewide elected officials and your legislative officials and your police jury. You're going to have all of them in the fall. If you have thought about running for police jury, here locally that's watching the show and you don't know what to do, you want to jump in the race, call us. We'll give you some advice and we'll show you. In fact, I even put links, Rex, in our thing to give people a little bit of a timeline, I put the Secretary of State stuff to show you a little bit of the stuff.
Yeah, and we need to post that on the Facebook page too. So we've got a guest in the green room right now, so we'll get to him here in a second. Let me see if I can show that.
Yeah, and look, by us saying and encouraging people to run, we're not telling you that we're going to support you. We're telling you that we'll tell you what you needed to do to run. Whether we support you or whether we don't individually, Rex has his what he supports and what he believes in. I have what I support and what I believe in. But we'll tell you what you need to do to run. Whether or not we support you is based off of your philosophy and whether or not we believe your heart and your intent is right and in the best interest of the citizens of Bossier. That's the deal. That's it in a nutshell. And right now we ain't got enough people, in my opinion, that are just wanting to serve for the best interest of the public, not themselves. And like what Matt Getz said, Jim Jordan, he's promoting Jim Jordan because Jim Jordan is the guy who's saying, I don't want it. I'm humble. I don't want it. That's why Matt Getz wants him, because he's not in it for himself. That's what it's about.
That's true. All right, so I'll make sure and post that Secretary of State link on the Facebook page as its own post after the show. In the meantime, we have a guest that has decided to join us. So I'm going to switch screens, Robert. So bear with me. If I lose you, just hang out, and I'll be right back. Let me see if I can get everybody in here. Let's see.
Well, I see my good friend Robert Wright right there. It looks like he is sporting some purple LSU regalia.
Can y'all hear me?
We can hear you fine.
The term limits thing.
Right.
I don't want anybody in the government tell me who I can vote for or can't vote for in 12 years or whatever it is. But this situation has gotten so bad, somebody like myself who does not like term limits must now support it. And that's just the the basis of my thought. Again, as a conservative, I don't want the government telling me anything, but we have no choice now. We must have term limits.
So let me ask you this, though. Why, not to get in an argument, really, but have a little bit of discussion on it. Why are you against term limits?
Generally, as a principle, I'm against it because when the government, through some kind of law, tells me I can't vote for somebody in 12 years or whatever it is, I don't need them telling me what to do. I can make that judgment on myself. But the problem is, it's not working like it is right now. I mean, we've had term limits in the legislature for many years, and I'm not sure that's changed it. But especially at the city level and these other levels, because of the situation, um, we have no choice. We have to support term limits so that we can get some of these people out of office that are self-serving. That's what we have in the legislature. Everybody's down there, you know, padding their own pockets or doing whatever they can. How about the Congress? Liz Cheney, what I think she was worth about 7 million or something like that. She's worth 40 million now. How do you do that as a congressman earning $180,000 a year? Everybody in this, unfortunately, in the state level and the national, I mean, it doesn't matter what level it is. They're doing stuff to put money in their pockets. We can talk about King David. I mean, I don't have proof of it, but everybody, I feel pretty good. Pretty sure that he's been getting insurance contracts or whatever it is because he is a city council member. So have to be for term limits now. We really don't have a choice if we're going to have this clean up this government.
So, what would you say? I showed Tommy's quote a little bit ago. I think what was he, three terms or whatever? What would you say would be a fair number of terms for? Let's just keep it simple for the mayor of Bossier City.
I'm with you. 3 terms. That would be the most. We could possibly talk about 2, but 3 would be the number I would pick now.
What about city councilmen?
Same thing. Unless I'm open to an argument that would say two terms, very much so. But 12 years, 3 terms is kind of what I'm thinking right now. But it's kind of evolving thing, and that's the point I made a second ago. When you have somebody like myself that in principle doesn't want the government telling you what to do, that's really against term limits, but you have a situation as bad as it is, people are staying up there forever and ever, padding their own pockets, doing the things that are best for them instead of for the city or the state or the government. They've got to go. I don't understand this. Why don't people understand that if they do the right thing, money or whatever it is will come to them? But they're just doing what's best for themselves. They got to go. They just got to go.
Now, Robert, what would you say to the person that says that, when you institute term limits, you give more power to the staff because they have more knowledge than the legislators themselves?
That's a true statement. Everything is a double-edged sword. But I don't know what else to do at this point because this is, we've got people up there in Congress that's all they've done. Joe Biden's never had a real job in his whole life. He's been a United States Senator the whole time. And we just don't need that. We do need
What do
better
you
city legislators that go up there. And if they do a good job, maybe keep them. But no, they need to go. We really don't have.
so would you think that maybe term limits for the staff as well, the administrative staff as well, would be would fix that?
Uh, yeah, I wouldn't be against that either because, everything, every time, again, it's a double-edged sword. You may put in term limits, but it's going to make the staff stronger. So maybe that would be a solution to that problem too, because, well, that's just the facts. I mean, when they go to Congress, they try to find somebody that has been in staff for a long time that directs them, tells them what to do. So no, I wouldn't be against that because that would solve that problem also.
So, I mean, in DC, we call it the swamp. Is it really because of the congressman, or is it because of the lobbyists who have no term limits? And is it because of the staff who have no term limits, who are there every day, always, and they never change, and they steer all of these legislators? You know, I mean, how can we expect legislators to just go in there, buck the system, go against the grain, and because they really don't know what's going on? So how do we do that? I don't know how we do that.
I'm not sure either on that because employment's not based on that. But what are we going to do elsewise? I mean, look at what's going on in D.C. Look what's going on with MJ. He's voted for McCarthy 3 times today. I'm
That's
not
right.
for let's see.
McCarthy is swamp. McCarthy is swamp. And if anybody has any doubts about that, all you have to do is look at his record. And for Mike Johnson to support McCarthy, I mean, that goes against everything that Mike Johnson espouses that he stands for. And I'm not trying, I mean, look, I got my, I don't deny that I've got my personal things with Mike Johnson, but I mean, if he's truly the constitutional conservative that he is, he should be standing with Matt Gaetz. He should be standing right there, shoulder to shoulder with Matt Gaetz, not carrying the water of the swamp of Washington, D.C. I'm sorry.
That's exactly right. And this stuff is so deeply ingrained in the staff in D.C. and also in Baton Rouge. Um, Again, it's going to take a major change to make this happen. And be honest with you, I'm not sure what that is, but this would be a good start because we're going to have to experiment with this stuff to see what's going to fix this out. But the reality is we cannot continue to do what we're doing and change this country because it is going in the wrong direction. Whether it's, and I'm a Republican State Central Committee, I'm a PEC member like yourself, but there's too much problem on both sides. We need to have true conservatives up there that want to have a balanced budget. I think one of the things they're fighting up there, gets us right now, is they want to have, what is it, 5 votes to suggest the absence of the chair to declare it, what's the word for it? Empty. That's a good word for it. And that's what the fight's over about. What's wrong with having 5 people to do that? Because you still got to get a majority vote to make the speaker's chair, open and absent. So I don't have a problem with that either. But and the other thing about it is, just be real honest with you, if somebody does do 5 votes, they better be standing on good ground because at the congressional level, if you go after the Speaker of the House and you don't have the votes, you're going to be out in the cold. You're not going to get anything. So
Now,
they go ahead.
now, Robert, I wanted to give you a little credit. A lot of people don't realize this. I know Rex knows this, but the folks watching our show, y'all may not realize this, but Robert is not the radio guy. He's not the Robert Wright that was the Robert Wright, the radio guy. But not to take anything away from this Robert Wright, but what I will tell you guys is this Robert Wright, I have been in many a fight with this Robert Wright in the Republican Party for, conservative values and conservative principles. And I will tell you that this guy is as strong a conservative as there is out there. And, he's not on the show just because he's some guy that just felt motivated to come on the show. This guy is a guy that's been in the trenches.
40 years.
I mean, look, yeah, a long time, and he deserves credit. And I'm not pumping you up, Robert, because I'll tell you to wear it just as fast as as I'm pumping you up here. But I wanted to give you credit because a lot of times the people that are in the trenches fighting for values that you and I believe in, you never hear their names. And I just wanted people to know that are watching the show that this is one of those guys you never hear his name that is fighting for the values that you believe in. And I just wanted to say that. And thanks, Robert, for the years. I mean, look, would I 80s, 70s, 80s? Is that how
1980
long you've been?
State Central Committee. I was the
1980 something.
in the 90s. I mean, the chair of the Bossier party, not the state party.
Yeah.
I was
Well,
Republican chair also. I've done a lot of this stuff, but what else are we going to do? We have got to root this out, and it's deep, deep, deep in the
we
federal government, state government. I mean, we've had 400 years of corruption in the state of Louisiana. It is a way of life here. And how is this state going to ever change if we don't get people down there that are not going to serve themselves, they're going to serve the state? How are we going to get people down there that'll run for office and do what's right and lose their job? I mean,
okay.
that's I'm going to, if I get a chance to fight on that, I'm just going to fight. And, hey, I've had
Robert,
many.
I'm going to use you. I'm going to use you right now.
What now?
You're a resource. You're a resource. I'm going to use you right now.
Go ahead.
So we've got a lot of legislative races coming up. We got governor's races. We got statewide office races coming up. I mean, how do we know? How do you know the difference between somebody that is a rhino and a true limited government conservative? How do we know the difference? How can you tell?
When you do a review on employees in the government, it's their voting record. I mean, you know as well as I do.
What if they don't have a voting record?
You have enough votes, you win. If you don't, you don't. So if you want to evaluate your legislator or whoever it is, the employee evaluation is based on their voting records, and not only just on the floor, but on the committees, because a lot of these legislators will say they're for something, but in the committee they kill it, and so it never gets to the floor. I mean, this has been going on forever, unfortunately.
Yeah, that'd be an interesting show to do one time where we sit and discuss some of the inner workings or the inner baseball of how all that transpires, because a lot of people don't know.
And Duke, I don't know how many times we've been fighting over stuff, because I don't know there's a nickel difference between us. And I know there's been many times over the years that we've talked about stuff, and I found out I was wrong and you were right. So,
Well,
that's not new.
I wasn't saying we were fighting. I was just saying in the years that you and I were fighting, I would say together on issues over the years, not fighting against each other, fighting together on issues is what I meant.
Well, I can remember, I won't bring the issue up, but I remember talking to you about an issue years ago, and reality is I didn't know what I needed to know about it, and you told me about it, and I have to tell you, I did what you said, and that's not because I just do what you say, but you were right and I was wrong. It's not about, and even though right, I always joke and say I'm always right when I'm incorrect, but it's about doing the right thing. It's about doing what's best for the people. What did Ronald Reagan say? A rising tide, all ships go up, arise. It's about helping little people get a job. Right now in this state, we have no opportunity. And the reason we don't have any opportunity is because the state is doing everything it can to make little businesses, small businesses, hard to start. And big businesses too. And I mean, I could talk about this corruption all night.
Robert, now you have a perspective for the folks watching the show. You have a perspective outside of this area. I mean, like you have a relationship to Utah. You have relationships with elected officials there. And I mean, you've been around a while, so. And it's kind of an interesting thing. You're one of those guys that, some local elected officials may not know you, may not even know your name, but you've been an influential person. So what do you say to the Republicans who say that we don't bring enough money home to our district, that we need to be getting our share. It should be coming home. We should be getting it, because what I see happening is, and this is the problem for conservatives and Republicans, is that you have conservatives and you have Republicans go out and say, okay, we're going to limited government, we're going to cut spending, and we're going to reduce the size of government. And then all of a sudden you have this whip that comes back around and people say, well, we're not getting our fair share. And then they get in, and it's this cyclical thing to where then we're trying to bring more money in. Well, bringing more money in, then that grows government again, and that's not necessarily being limited government or conservative. So that's the cycle. How do we break that?
By who we elect. I mean, everybody wants to talk about how bad our elected officials are, but the reality is we vote for these people. And if we want to blame somebody, really blame somebody, we got to look in the mirror, because we have the ability to vote for these people. We keep putting them in and in over time. And I hate to tell you, we're getting what we vote for. We're getting what we deserve. So we have, as electors, have to elect the members of, if I can say it, those that vote. We have to become more informed. Now, I know a lot of people are busy and work, and I am, and you are too. I teach school now. But you either have to become informed or you need to find somebody that has your values that, stays informed to get this done. And it's up to the voters. Unfortunately, it all comes back to the mirror, what we're doing. But it's so ingrained. As I said before, um, we're going to have these term limits now, even though I'm somebody that doesn't believe in it principle, because I don't like the government telling me who I can vote for and who I can't vote for. They don't, but what choice do we have? We have, legislators all the way down the line that just do what's best for them. And unfortunately, that's the case. So we have no choice. We have got to do something to root out all of this. I'll just call it straight evil that's in our
Let me
governments to
let
to
me
the
put up
top
a
and the
good let me put up a good question by Holly Cole because it was directly for you, Robert. So I'll read it out. This is a sincere and genuine question for Robert. Do you feel like all the work that you have done is worth it? At this point, I think many of us want to take action, but we feel like it will be for naught.
in the 40 some odd years, again, 1988, and I was working on campaigns before than that. The reality is we've made very little progress. The only thing I can look at that we've had progress on is, stopping abortions. But have we really reduced the government size? No. We reduced the budget? No. Is the Congress reducing the budget? No. They're too worried about what they got to bring home for their district. They're too worried about getting reelected. I'm looking for people that are going to do the right thing and get fired if that's what it takes. We have a responsibility, you and I and all of us, when we vote on the PEC or the State Central Committee. The reality is we have a constituency of one, and my constituency is God through Jesus Christ. Um, that's the only thing that's going to count. But we got to get this out. I mean,
Well,
I'm people that
let me
really do the right thing, no matter what happens, and lose their job. And I think if you continue to do the right thing, it'll work out.
let me circle back to this last point that I think you're kind of alluding to, but the problem is the mirror that the voters need to hold up because the voters are the ones who put these people in office. I mean, we got the bureaucrats, but they're all appointed by the people we elect. All right. So the problem is when, pick your favorite legislator, good or bad, when that legislator doesn't bring home the bacon, so to speak, they get excoriated. Oh, look, it's like the road situation. We know the roads in North Louisiana need to be fixed. We know that basically the roads in South Louisiana get prioritized.
That's right.
But to fix these roads up here, it takes tax dollars. Now, granted, we've already spent those tax dollars, and, it's most of our feeling that we should get a return on that. But my point is that when we gripe about, something going to South Louisiana, and we need more consideration up here in North Louisiana, we're talking about tax dollars. And like Duke said, when we complain about a legislator that doesn't bring home the bacon or one that does, we're talking about tax dollars and always bigger government. Always.
Yep, that's right. And, as representatives, you want to do whatever you can to bring stuff in, like North Louisiana. We're just a stepchild up here. You want to do the best you can do that. But you don't want to do it when it's detrimental to the people. You don't want to do it when we are having government, just out of control. I can't remember the numbers, but it used to be, what, $10 billion or $5 billion? What is it, $40 billion now? We haven't reduced government at all. And so we have to do what's right, what we know is right, what our principles are, and we have to continue to do that. Again, I've had people many times over the years threaten, well, we're going to come in and put an opponent against you. And I say, fine, you promise you're going to do that? Because I'm gonna do my very best to do it right. If I'm wrong sometimes, yeah, I'm sure I am. But that's not the thing. We have to do what's right for the state, for the federal government, because we all rise and fall based on this stuff. So, and again, it's back to the voters. We have to be more informed. And when we vote, I hear people say, well, we only have 30% people vote. Well, that's pretty much because a motor voter. But if you don't know what's going on, you either find out and stay home if you don't. And I'm not trying to discourage voters, but it doesn't hurt my feelings when people, don't vote. And the reality is because they don't know what's going on. And that's just the
That's true.
facts.
Well,
A lot of people don't like it, but that's just the facts.
well, Robert, hey, we appreciate you, brother, coming on, and thank you for everything that you have done. Trying to, I mean, I'm not going to say the conservative limited government thing, but just trying to make society better and government better, because that's what it's all about. That's what you've tried to do.
Rex, I don't understand why liberals don't understand this. They want bigger government. They want more money. But the place they get that from is the public sector. And let's say for a liberal, you want to have more money in state government. The way to do that is to strengthen the private sector, because the reality is government is a leech on private entities. It's a necessary leech in some places, but it is a leech. And the more money that the government takes from private industry, when the private industry is not growing, the weaker they're going to make the host, and we're all going to go down. So that's another thing I don't understand. We have to strengthen small business. We have to bring jobs to this state that make good money. We have just tons of people leaving every year, and that's because they don't have any opportunity. And the jobs they do have and there's nothing wrong with the McDonald's job, but that's what the most of them are. We have to have manufacturing in this state. I mean, that's what brought the middle class to the United States in the 1900s. And so we've strengthened private business. And when we do that, then it's going to strengthen everything. And the reality is there'll be more money to spend at the state when we need to. But we do not need to continue have government that's out of control. That's what we have now. Completely out of control. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
Oh, you're absolutely right about it. Well, again, we appreciate you coming on and
Thanks
jumping in on the show, kind of unplanned, but and certainly we appreciate you clarifying your stance on term limits. So whether we completely agree or partially agree, we appreciate you clarifying, and you're welcome anytime.
Doesn't like term limits as a principle because we don't like government telling us what to do, but they recognize the situation. We have no choice. I think that tells the whole situation on how really bad it is. I taught Louisiana history a couple years ago. Man, it's bad, and it's got to change. Do this, all our children are going to leave, and the continuous going down. I can't talk about economics right now and going down the toilet. I can at some point in time, but
that'll be a whole other show.
I'll end this with David Crockett. Rising tides raise all boats.
That's it.
All right. Well, thank you again,
Robert. We appreciate you coming on, brother. Have a good night.
Okay, thank you, man. I'm gonna keep watching you on the air. So thank you.
All right. Thanks.
Bye-bye.
Well, that was interesting. And again, glad that, he came on and clarified his point, his stance.
Yeah. So I'll go back to term limits or not. If you're thinking about running, look, by all means, reach out to Rex, reach out to me. We can tell you what you need to be doing. I mean, because the police jury races, I said it. That makes maybe the fourth time I've said police jury. I mean, I've said it. Is it 4? It may have been 5. So let me say it again to make it the 6th time. Police jury. If somebody wants to run and has considered serving, you should be thinking about police jury. Now is the time to make your move. And why do we say that? Because now is the time. And case in point, Rex, cut 16 HD8, HD9. People are making moves. And case in point, here is a legislative race that's coming up, and there are people making moves right now. In fact, Chris Turner, a lot of folks may or may not know who Chris Turner is. Now, Chris Turner is a longtime friend of mine, same as Dodie Horton. Both of them have been longtime friends of mine. And Chris Turner is running against Dodie Horton for state representative in District 9.
Right. And it's
I
my understanding that those district lines have been redrawn slightly, but on balance, I think the population is not really, or constituency is not really changing. Is that your
yeah,
understanding?
for the most part. And you know, I got to be real careful and on this one because I have two very good dear friends in this race here, and it's a tricky deal for me because I respect both of these people. I love both of these people. How it is that they are ending up in a race against each other is a paradox to me. Um, I will tell you from my gut, I look at this that was sent out. Now, this wasn't sent out to me. This was sent to someone else. So Chris Turner didn't invite me to his fundraiser. Um, you know, but he invited somebody else. So maybe I should, maybe I shouldn't read into that. But the interesting thing is the names that are on the hosted by. And if this is how you have to read things. You look into this a little bit and you see Bill Altimus, former
Hmm.
parish president of the police jury. You see Walter O. Bigby Jr. A lot
Oh,
of
that
folks
name's
watching this.
familiar.
That's familiar, isn't it? Have you ever heard of Walter O. Bigby before?
Well, I've heard of Walt.
Yeah, well, Walter O. Bigby
And
Jr.,
the
Cypress
carriageway.
District, and the carriageway. Now, that's an interesting thing. Uh, Bob and Billy Joe Brotherton.
Hmm.
Smells like police jury again. Let's look down through the list here a little bit more. Oh, there's some Jones names in here. Maybe where's our wait a minute, let me look in the
Let's
comments
see.
here. Have we got any
Bill,
comments from a Jones in the comments, maybe somewhere? But
some guy
but
named Jones anyway.
I got a feeling this Jones connection here, that might have something to do with some Ducks Unlimited thing from a long time ago. That probably ain't nothing there. But if we look at Eric Newman, oh, there's some school board connection.
Hmm.
Paul Mac Plummer, isn't that a police jury connection? Oh, wait a minute, there's Tom Zalzer. Tom Salzer, there's a police jury connection.
Hmm.
How about that? So
Well,
the
it,
the point is people should read between the lines here. And Chris is a friend of mine, and before Chris had quote unquote decided to run, I reached out to Chris, had a conversation, and just to let's go ahead and just clear the record right now. Chris said, I said, here's what I said to Chris. I said, Chris, I understand you're considering a run for House District 9. He said, man, I keep hearing that. He said, I don't I haven't made any decision. I don't know that I'm running. I haven't made any decision. I don't know anything. And I said, well, okay. So, well, if you hadn't made any decision, that's the word on the street. And I said, if you make that decision, I'd love to hear back from you and we need to talk. And you know what? I've never heard from Chris again. So,
well, there you go.
well, there you go. I guess Chris is uninterested in what my opinion is. So, we will call the shots on this race, however it pans out.
Yeah. All right.
Doty,
So
Doty, Doty has not reached out as well either. So,
that is true. She has not. Although Doty has communicated with us some on certain issues, but I don't know. Well, I'm not going to give my opinion yet. I got to
well, I
think this
mean,
through a
look,
little bit more.
Chris has been a public servant through his career and an exceptional public servant. And
Right.
I have went to bat for Chris in some ways that the public will never know, and I would do it again. And I highly respect him. I respect Dodie Horton. You're talking about two really good people. The story here is not really either one of these candidates. The story here is the people that, are behind these candidates. That's where the story is here. And
Right.
I, man, this race here, this is one that tugs at the heartstrings here, and it's gonna be it's gonna be a tough one.
Yeah, gonna be gonna be interesting to say the least. All right. What else do we need to talk about tonight, Mr. Lowry? We are at what are we? How long have we been on? Like 2 hours and 10 minutes now.
Oh, well then that's enough.
And
Good
have you
grief,
noticed my voice is not completely gone? It is getting
it's not
better and
gone.
better every week.
You're hanging in there. So for everybody, I would encourage you to watch the tea leaves for term limits because you may be pleasantly surprised. And again, any of you that even had a thought about running for public office, look, don't cut yourself short. You know, more regular people need to be in public office. If you need a confidential, uh, advice on what you should do, look, Rex and I both will tell you what you need to do. I mean, we just want to see more people get involved.
Right.
That's the bottom line. We need
Get
more people.
involved. Do something. Attend meetings. Email your elected officials. Write your elected officials. We don't care what it is. Just get involved somehow. And of course,
20,
continue to watch your show.
2023. This is the year that we need to, turn the page. We need to take charge. We need to get involved. We need to make our community better. I mean, we can't continue to go in debt. We need to stop taking loans. We need to, turn the page. It's
Yeah.
time to change.
Yeah, it is. Or we do. And speaking of that, so 2023, our plans are to continue doing what we're doing. We are currently on Facebook and YouTube. We're also, many people may not know, we're also on the Rumble platform. I've recently revamped the website slightly. So you can go there to make or give a donation if you want to. You can go there to catch the YouTube feed if you want to watch the show but don't want to be signed into Facebook and let anybody know that you're watching. There's always YouTube. We apologize for the commercials, but nothing we can do about that. If you watch on YouTube, just put up with that. Remember, there ain't no free lunch ever. Let's see. What else have we got planned? I think we're going to try to do some more long-form text content. Maybe we need to start writing and publishing some articles this year. What do you think about that, Duke?
Oh, good grief. Got to find some time to do that.
We can just get a bigger plate.
Yeah, a bigger plate. Good grief. It's hard enough to do what we do already.
Yeah, I know. We need to work on organizing skills, and I'm going to try to commit to 2023 to trying to be more organized. Hey, did you know that I spent several hours organizing our video archives? I have every video that we've ever produced, and I have those actually archived now. And the next step is trying to get some of that converted over to text so it will be searchable to make it easier on us and the folks out there in the public that watch. If they want to go back and see who said what.
That is some good stuff. I mean, admittedly, I have not looked through it. I have been working. I mean, a lot of you folks may not realize this, but I am a working dog just like the rest of you. And frankly, the day before Christmas, I was on an oil well. New Year's Eve, I was on an oil well. In fact, I spent when it turned from 2022 to 2023, I was on an oil well in Carthage, Texas. So I'm like you guys. I'm slaving, trying to make a dollar like the rest of you. Ain't no difference here, brother. But no, I have not been able to look at that, Rex, but I will. And I'll give you the due credit that you do for doing that work. I appreciate it because you do a lot of the tech work, and I don't compliment you enough on that. And 2023, you compliment me all the time on doing notes, and I haven't been doing my part lately. But
Well, no, you do.
the compliment is due to you for the work that you do. So, hat tip to you, brother.
Well, I appreciate it. And hat tip to everybody that is watching and commenting on the show. We appreciate all the comments, whether we agree, partially, agree all the way, don't agree at all, whatever. We appreciate all the comments, including the breadwinner comment, Kara.
Well, and David Crockett says we don't use dates on your titles.
Well,
He's right.
We'll talk about that. We do use show numbers, though, so at least we have that. All right. We might see about putting the dates in the titles. I don't know. We'll see about that. It's hard enough to get the show numbers organized and correct. It's a nightmare sometimes. But anyway. All right.
Y'all.
Anything else?
No, sir. Thanks everybody for watching. We appreciate you watching, and till next week. And we will have you some good juicy stuff next week. We expect some public information stuff rolling in and some Proton mail.
Same time, same place, Tuesday evenings, 7 o'clock, unless something else comes up and we do an extra show or two. We'll see y'all then.
Good night.